The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Hello, Easton. Welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I am Claudia Denelle, and this is Cooking with Claudia. Thanks for showing up. Today we're going to make creamy Tuscan chicken. So we're going to start with some big boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Now these breasts were over a pound each. These big breasts. So I cut them in half because nobody's going to be able to eat a pound at a time, I don't think. Before we start anything, we've got to season your ingredients. So we're going to very lightly season salt and pepper on each side of the chicken breast. Now, when you're distributing seasoning, the best way for you to do it is to grab a pinch of whatever it is. We're going to do salt and pepper. And from up high, you want to sprinkle your seasoning. What that's going to do is it's going to distribute your seasonings much more evenly than if you go down here. Because if you go down too low, what happens is your seasoning is going to concentrate in that small spot. You don't want that because it isn't going to taste really good. It tastes better when it's distributed evenly and you don't bite into one big whole thing of pepper or something like that. So we're going to we did salt on each side. We're going to do a light pepper. And now we're ready. We're going to go over to the stove and get that ready. So off we go. Here we go. And we're going to put in about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. This is my little gadget that a lot of people that come in here to do a cooking lesson or a cooking party really enjoy this. I do as well because I happen to be a little heavy-handed. So this kind of keeps me on the straight and narrow. That was 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil that I put in. We're going to brown each side of the chicken about 4 to 5 minutes each. Once this gets hot, I'm going to put them in. The way you find out if the oil is ready to start to cook, because you want the oil to be hot before you put anything in it. Otherwise, your ingredient is going to absorb the oil, and that's not going to taste all that great. So what we look for at the very top of the puddle of oil is you'll see it start to shimmer a little bit, sort of like when you're driving on the highway or a street in the summertime and you see the heat waves come off the street. That's pretty much what you're looking for. So I'm going to put, and that's the sound you want to hear. Like, okay, Claudia, I am ready to make some delicious food with you. Because that's what the ingredients always say. It always talks back to you. So I'm going to lower this a little bit. Because we want to brown it. We don't want to burn it. And I'm going to let it just do its thing for a little while. I'm going to go back over here and we're going to get some of the vegetables ready. So in this recipe, we have garlic. I've got 2 cloves already minced, but I'm going to show you how we mince a clove of garlic. This is a clove of garlic. So I put it on its side. I take a nice knife. Edge of the knife is always away from you so you don't cut yourself. And I'm going to give it a bang. And what that does is it pops the paper of the garlic clove so that you don't have to fight with it. And then I'm going to cut the little stem off because it's hard and it doesn't really taste good. Now we're going to mince. So we start with slicing. Hold your knife like this, not like this, like this. You are the boss of the knife. Now, gather these together. Hold it. This hand directs and keeps everything in order so that you can cut it. And then we just keep going back and forth like that, keeping our fingers out of the way because we don't want to mince our fingers, we just want to mince the garlic. That's what I like to do. I like to do this kind of little therapeutic for me. See how fast I can make it really small. The bigger the chunk, the more you'll taste it, of course, in your mouth. The smaller the chunk gets more flavor into your meal as opposed to a bite. It's just going to be more flavorful because look at it. All of this garlic is tiny, and there's a lot of juice and flavor that will come out of all of this. So we're getting this ready. We're going to go check and see how our chicken are doing. Keeping people from messing around with food while it's cooking is very difficult. Let's go check the chicken and see if it's golden brown. If it is, then we can turn them over. That is the color that you're looking for. Don't worry. You're going to say, she's going to kill us. These breasts are so raw, but they're going to cook for a while, a little longer here. Then we're going to set it aside. And then when the sauce is cooking, we're going to put the chicken back in and cook it some more. So now we're going to get some of the other ingredients ready. Tuscan chicken. I am going to have as a side dish some nice steamed, delicious asparagus. This is a perfect time for asparagus. This is spring, and this is their season. So this is what I do. Now, they tell you that you want to break every asparagus stalk. Well, I don't. I bake one, and the reason you break it, this is tough, like wood. You don't really want to eat it. So what I do is I have this nice bunch that I bought at the market, and I'm going to cut now where it broke so that they're all assuming the same length. And, pardon me 1 minute. Here we go. I don't want to slip and fall on that. And they'll all cook at the same time. So see, all set, trimmed, ready, nice tender asparagus for when it's time. Not just yet. In the meantime, some of the other ingredients calls for oregano. Well, this particular, you can either use dry oregano or fresh. If there's fresh available, I always go for this fresh because to me, any fresh herb tastes better than a dried herb. And oregano is one of them. I'm not a big fan of oregano, dry oregano, but I do like fresh oregano. Okay, now we also need some cherry tomatoes. So we're going to put these, going to cut them in half, get it ready. Just a simple cut, no big deal. Keep your fingers out of the way. You're probably going to hear that a lot because it's kind of one of my pet peeves. I want people who come in here for a cooking lesson, if they come in with 10 fingers, I want them to leave with 10 fingers. However many fingers they come in with, that's what they leave with. So when the chicken is done, we're going to get the vegetables ready. This whole meal is going to take you maybe 45 minutes. That's pretty good. So when you come home from work and you're tired, you say, I think I'll make some nice creamy Tuscan chicken. It's a wonderful meal. It's not difficult. It's full of flavor. And I really do think that you will enjoy it very much. That's cooking. We're cutting. So we've got Memorial Day coming up next weekend. And it appears last night we've had some crazy weather, cold and rainy. You may remember. I heard the meteorologist say that we are now in the summer air mode. Well, I hope so, because I'm not in the mood for a winter air mode anymore. I think we've had 50 degrees long enough. Today's supposed to be up in the 80s, I think. Maybe we'll have to turn the air conditioning on in here eventually. So I'm located here, 110 Center Street, right behind, same building as Not Just Tabbouleh. If you know where that is, you know where we are. So we give cooking lessons. and we caterers. We've been doing this for a little over 20 years. And the original business was called That's Tasty. And we did not have a brick front. We didn't have a storefront. So we couldn't really do a whole lot. But we worked out of our house. We gave a lot of cooking lessons out of our house, and we're able to have a little bit of fun. So, but now we're having a lot of fun because now it's legit. Okay, let's go back over here and check on these chickens. So we're nice and golden brown. I'm going to take them out for now, and I'm also going to lower the heat. This is the burner I use all the time, and it's the most finicky burner I have. When I want it on low, it shuts off. We're going to put in 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to melt it. And we're going to put some of this delicious garlic in once it gets melted. I use unsalted butter for everything. The only time I use salted butter is when I'm putting it on a piece of toast or an English muffin. When I'm cooking or baking, I always use unsalted. All right, in it goes. So we want the garlic to cook just a little bit so it starts to get fragrant. Starting to get fragrant. Smells great. All right. Now, you know those tomatoes that we cut? In they go. Now these are going to cook for a little while so that they start to get wilty, start to soften up a little bit. And then we're going to throw in Popeye's favorite food, some nice spinach. And we're only going to cook that until the spinach wilts. So while that's cooking, I'm going to get the water ready. We're also having some asparagus. There's about a 1/2 inch of water in there. And I'm also going to get the water boiling. We're going to have some fettuccine with our supper today. So that's there. We're going to put in our asparagus that we just trimmed. Nice like this. Little sprinkle of salt. So the thing with salt, some people can have it, some people can't. So if you cannot have it, disregard what I'm going to say. But if you can have it, what's important is every ingredient that you put into a meal deserves a little bit of love. And that's what I just put into the tomatoes. Just a little bit of salt. And what's going to happen with the salt is it's just going to make it, all the flavor come out. So this is starting to wilt. I'm going to put in the lettuce. And again, we're going to put in some salt, just a little. And we're going to give that a little twirl. I'm going to lower this. And when the spinach starts to wilt a little bit, we're going to put in this cream. And then we're going to put the chicken back in, and we're going to let it cook. All right. So, in a kitchen, in a commercial kitchen, sometimes you have things that work great. Sometimes you don't have every piece of equipment. So what you do is you compromise. I'm going to get 2 pans to cover so that we can have a little bit of steam. I'm going to put it over my asparagus and my chicken and spinach. just to get some steam so that the sauce starts to work up and the asparagus starts to melt. While we were letting things cook, I'm going to quarter a lemon. Oh, so the reason why we're making the lemon, in case you want to squeeze the lemon on your chicken when you're ready to eat. So we're making pasta. You don't have to make pasta. Being Italian, I have to have pasta. It's either a pasta meal or a rice meal. Even when I make potatoes, I often will make pasta or rice for me. In goes the asparagus, the oregano. Give it a twirl. You see now the spinach is starting to wilt a little bit. The tomatoes are releasing its delicious juice, mixing in with the garlic. Ooh, is this going to be delicious or what? All right. I'm actually going to put in a little bit more salt now. That was about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt that I just put in. And how do I know that? I literally measured my pinches of salt, because what I thought was a teaspoon of salt was actually 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You don't really know unless you actually go through the process of measuring things, how much you are able to pick up on a pinch. All right, in goes this delicious. That's 1 cup of heavy cream. Swirl it around, get it all mixed up. Nice like that, perfect. So what you see here is really colors of the Italian flag. White, green, and red. If I threw a blueberry in there instead of the green, we'd probably have the American flag. All right, so this is going to cook. I got to get my cover again. My cover. Let's see how the asparagus are going. I can smell it. So I like things tender. Some people, when they're cooking, they like things to be a little bit crunchy. Personally, when I'm making veggies, unless they're raw, I want my veggies cooked. So these still have a while to go. You will also be able to tell by the color of the vegetable. When it gets nice and bright red, green, like it's getting there, we should be pretty well set. Let's check. That's getting hot. This over here. Now, back to the salt. When you're making pasta, you want to boil the water and you want to put in a handful of salt. Lots of rules of thumb when it comes to salting pasta water. Some people say it should be as salty as the ocean. I've had gulps of the water in the ocean. It doesn't taste good. So no, I don't like it quite that salty. But you know, the thing with cooking is it's all a matter of your own taste. If it pleases your palate, then that's the way it should be. If you want it more salty, go for it. If you don't want salt at all, I would suggest you put a little bit in because it will bring flavor out in that pasta. And what is pasta? It's just flour and water, also with a tiny bit of salt. Let's see how our chicken is doing. Coming to a nice simmer. So that's what we want. We want it simmering so it'll cook the chicken and the sauce will cook through. In a little bit, when this gets nice and cooked, the chicken gets better cooked, I'm going to put in some Romano cheese. You can use Romano, you can use Parmesan, whatever you prefer. I prefer Romano. Romano cheese comes from a sheep's milk. Parmesan cheese comes from a cow's milk. So I like sheep's milk. I like sheep goat's cheese because it's a little sharper. That's why I prefer Romano cheese. It's got a little sharper flavor for me. Parmesan's a little bit duller. Still delicious, but I like that little it gives you when you are eating it. I remember as a kid growing up, we'd go to a place called Stella Chain in Brockton. Now, Stella Chain was on Main Crescent Street. Oh, I'm going back many years. But they were a wonderful store to buy imported Italian foods. So we would make our pilgrimage to it once a week. And it was always the same conversation. Do you have imported provolone? Let me taste it. And if, when you got a little piece of it, if it didn't make the roof of your mouth go crazy, tingling, we didn't want it. It had to be really, really sharp. So those are memories. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I prefer Romano cheese over Parmesan. So this is almost done. These are done. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to go over to the sink and drain these. Okay. Back in the pan they go. So we're going to put a little bit of butter on them. And then these will be ready for the meal. I'll just put right here. I'm going to put some butter on it. I don't know about you, but I love asparagus. It's just so good. Asparagus and broccoli, my two favorite vegetables that are pretty much always in our home. All right, you're gonna go over here and hang out. You're ready to rock and roll. That's almost boiling. When the water boils, we're using fettuccine today. I like fettuccine. Any kind of pasta if you want, or you can roast up some some potatoes. You can make rice, whatever you want. This is your meal, but this is what I'm making today. So the water is boiling. I put in the salt. We're gonna cook these for 10 minutes. Looks good, doesn't it? I think we'll keep this off for now. Ooh. I get excited when food starts to come together and it looks so good. All right, here we go. Lower it a little bit. I always let the pasta cook a little bit before I give it a stir so that it starts to soften a little bit and you can manipulate it better and it won't stick. So that's a lot of times people say, oh, I put oil in the water so the pasta doesn't stick. Well, you can do that, but that really isn't going to accomplish what you want. Stirring it in the first couple of minutes will keep them from sticking as you're going through. All right, I'm going to get some of the cheese now, and I'm going to put some in. So being Italian, we don't measure things. The only time I really measure is when I'm baking, because I'm not that great a baker and I don't know all the chemical reactions and such. So if it tells me to put in a specific amount of ingredient when I'm baking, I'm pretty good about that. Cooking, on the other hand, no, you don't have to be quite so structured. You can be a little bit more free. So in goes, so it's almost like a little Alfredo sauce that we're making here, with the cheese and the cream and the butter. So we're gonna let that all go in. Just like that. So this has to cook for a while. But before I do anything else, I'm going to give it a taste. You need to taste as you go along, because how will you know if it tastes good if you don't taste it? So what I'm looking for here is flavor. Does it have enough salt? Does it have enough cheese? That's so good. Perfect. All right. Gonna give this a little twirl. And I always ask people, do you know how you know when chicken is ready, when it's cooked? And there are several reasons. Sometimes people say how it feels. This is definitely not cooked because it's still soft. But the surefire way to find out if your chicken is ready to eat, you are looking for 164 to 165 degrees internal temperature. So let's take it. It's not going to be even close. So this is going to have to cook a little bit longer. All right, so this is going to cook for a little while longer. I'm going to put the cover back on. Pretending that we're short on time, I'm going to take these chicken breasts out. And you're probably saying, you're taking them out? I thought you said that they're not quite cooked yet. They aren't. So what we're going to do is we're going to make them smaller so that they will actually cook. If you are running slow on time, what I probably should have done is I probably should have cut this in half horizontally before we started the whole process. See how? But not too bad. Not too bad. Put these back in. Just going to take a couple more minutes to cut these. And I'm going to put the chicken cut side down because the outside is cooked. The center is not. So that's what we need to concentrate our efforts on. Get these cooked. So we had a birthday party here for 8 little kids on Saturday. The birthday girl was 8 years old, and the ages range from 4 years old up to maybe 9. These kids, there were 8 of them, girls and boys. They were so good. They were awesome. They had a blast. We made pizza. They baked cake. And while things were cooking, they went outside to play. They were really, really good. I am amazed all the time when there's a bunch of little kids that come in here and how attentive they are and how much fun they have. There was a little 4-year-old girl, Valerie, who likes to bake. 4 years old and she's baking, and she likes to bake cookies. Well, what kind of cookie do you like, Val? She said, I like chocolate cookies. Ah, me too. Woman after my own heart. Okay, well, we're hanging out, waiting for things to cook, which I always tell people is the most difficult part of cooking, patience. People like to mess around with the food that's being cooked, and that's not really the best approach, because if you're messing around with it too much, it's not cooking the way it's supposed to. So this has to cook a little bit more. Where I put in some extra cream, I do want to taste it again just to make sure that it didn't dilute the flavors. So let's see. All right. No, it's good. I think, though, I'll put another little sprinkle of cheese in. Time for the pasta. So I'm going to drain this little guy. Right in here. Get your facial while you're at it. I didn't remove all of the pasta water because that's going to help keep it moist and help keep it thick. I'm also, though, going to put in some butter and a little bit of olive oil while we wait for the chicken and the sauce to be cooked. So that's about a little over a tablespoon of unsalted butter, and I'm going to get my little gadget here, and I'm going to put in 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. Give it a twirl, and it will be ready for consumption. I cook this al dente, 10 minutes for al dente, 11 minutes for not al dente. I like a little chew to my pasta. All right, gonna give it, make sure it's not sticking together. There's a little bit of the pasta sauce that helps, pasta water, the oil and the butter, which will give it a nice flavor and it won't interfere with the flavor of the sauce that we're making. So let's go see how we're doing with the chicken. Let's take its temperature, see if it's ready to be consumed. I'm going to take the biggest piece I can find, which is this guy, and we'll see what it comes out to. Now, when you're cooking and baking, when the food comes off the stove or out of the oven, it's going to continue to cook for about 5 more minutes. So that if it's not at the temperature that you're looking for, you can bring it down to, this was 132, so I'm looking for 154. So we're going to turn this up a little bit. We're going to put the cover back on. So while we're waiting for things to cook, which we have to be patient, you can reach me at Cooking with Claudia. Claudia at Cooking with Claudia. That's my email address. Or you can call here at 508-271-7770. So we do cooking parties, we do cooking lessons, private, 1 person, 2 people, up to about 10 or 12. That's usually for a cooking party as opposed to a cooking lesson. And we also have a summer cooking clinic for the kids. We have 1 week that is completely open, and then another week that has 2 openings, and 1 week that has 1 opening. So they go fast. The kids have a blast. It's a 3-hour program, Monday through Friday. And we are going to different countries so that they can learn the food culture of some of these different countries. And they'll taste herbs and how they taste different when they're applied differently to different ethnic foods. So they go home with the food that they make, and let me tell you something, these kids are very covetous of the food that they make. They don't want me touching it. They don't want their parents touching it. They made it. They're bringing that meal home for their family. It's a wonderful thing. It does great things for a child's confidence. It's really a fun thing. For everybody, actually, when you are cooking and you realize that you can make something that's really delicious, it's a big boost. A few weeks ago, I had 2 ladies that came. One of the women bought a gift certificate for her sister-in-law and her to come for a cooking party, cooking lesson with me. So when they walked in the door, they said, "Look, Claudia, we don't know how to cook. Our husbands cook." So, okay, we'll see how you do. Well, we made different Chinese food. I don't do the cooking. I demonstrate it, but I know how to do the cooking. It's people who come here to do the cooking, they have to do it. So when they left with this delicious meal that they made, they were so happy that they were able to actually do the cooking. Yeah, it's not that crazy. It's not that scary. It's a very doable type of thing. All right, I just want to maneuver the chicken a little bit. We'll put you there. It's coming to a nice boil, which is okay. There's nothing sticking to the bottom. All right. I think we're getting pretty darn close. 'Cause I don't know about you, but I'm hungry. All right. Time to eat. I'm going to get my plate. A little bit of that. I'm going to take a little bit of this. Going to come over here and grab a little bit of pasta. And I'm going to go over here for 1 second. You know what I want now? Sauce. So I'm going to take some of the tomatoes and some of the spinach and some of the sauce and pour it over my pasta because that's the way I like it. Yeah. This is a meal fit for a king, a queen, a bunch of princesses, and some princes. Bon appetito. Let's check it out. Nice, perfectly fixed. I'm cooked. I'm going to have a little bit of asparagus. You know what? I'm going to come back here and eat another time. This is really good. I hope you taste it. I hope you use the recipe. I know you'll like it. Got to have some pasta. Hold on. Here we go. You don't have to, but if you wanted to put a little bit of lemon on it to brighten up the flavors, that would be the time to do it. So, this, ladies and gentlemen, my friends from Easton, this is creamy Tuscan chicken. Thank you so much for coming. Happy cooking, happy eating, bon appetito. See you next time.